Yeah, and then when I go to Peru, I can be like, "Hello, everyone." With my Spanish. Yeah, it is lovely though learning a Spanish song because it is a really easy way to just connect in the language. And even though I'm not great at speaking it, when I sang the song, the feedback I got from Spanish speakers was that they understood every word that I sang and I was very clear. So I think I can pronounce things very well even if I don't fully understand. But I do understand a lot, but I'm getting there. But yeah, it's nice to just sing a Spanish song and that'll help with learning too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Oh, so I will let you know with this interview, it's like a mix between, I guess, improv and some questions I have that I would like to definitely ask you.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Sounds good. Hmm.
I did like one of the first things I would like to ask you because um like I've struggled personally with being in the spotlight when like when I was little, didn't really care so much. That as I got older, like that creeping feeling of like, oh my gosh, people are gonna judge me, like blah blah blah. How did you overcome that fear of stage fright, I guess? If you ever had it.
Yeah, it's funny because when you first say before you do anything, when you first imagine yourself singing in front of people, I guess as a child and if you are good at singing you kind of have an instinct of like some kind of visualization of like one day singing in front of people and I think so you kind of have this idea that it's going to be easy or whatever and then when you've well for me when I remember doing this sort of talent competition thing. I mean any competition talent thing is going to be that extra bit nerve-wracking. But I remember like thinking like, well, I can sing the song, I can, it'll be fine. But then like actually putting yourself there, and I remember just feeling like so like shaky, and that was like the first one of the early performances that I remember, and maybe it was just the environment. Like I've never felt comfortable in kind of competitive environments at all. But I do remember one of the early performances just kind of feeling like I'm just losing it. Like what's happening to me? Like I've pictured myself being here. What's going on? I'm so nervous. Um so I guess you just have to throw yourself in and feel the nerves and that was just like one of many and since then every performance got easier and I think it's just the more you do it and then most performances I do it's just I don't even have to think about it and then there'll be the occasional performance where it'll be a slightly different environment that maybe is not usual for me or I haven't like I played so many times now, but the other day I was asked to do this intimate gig, and it was somebody that I'd never met before, and they w wanted this sort of arty, intimate vibe. And so I was just sort of turning up thinking, well, I don't know what to expect, but I'm ready. Like it'll be great to do my own songs. And it was great. But like, and I was so relaxed. But then just as before it started and as the audience was coming in, I recognized one person in the audience as they were walking in. I was like, oh shit, that person's here. Like, and it was someone that I'd sort of only met recently. So it was kind of like, oh my God, they'll see me. And so that kind of like threw me a bit. So it's always different. But as time goes on, I think that you've if you're so well practiced, even if you do feel nervous in certain situations, you can kind of it doesn't really matter because you're so well practiced that you're kind of just doing it anyway. And that's what, practice really is because it's like you can be great in any situation, but then when that situation where it's a bit more nerve-wracking, you need to rely on the fact that you know what you're doing and your practice and everything, like anything else. I mean, even like learning to drive or whatever, doing the driving test, something I did recently. So that's kind of similar, I guess. Just practice.
Was it renewed? Were you renewing your driver's license?
No, because I live in Ireland and I, I got to age 30 and I still didn't have a driving license at all because, we go through our lives in Europe where if we have good public transport and, other things are taking over our life, or like for me, I just didn't get around to it. You don't learn, you don't really cover any driving stuff in school or anything. So you just kind of focus on life and then it gets to a point where you're like, hang on a minute, I want to learn how to drive. Like I want to go places, take myself to places. So I need to drive. And yeah, I passed. So it's a very, you know, great big deal for me. I know Americans have all had their licenses forever, but yeah, I'm super chuffed.
Uh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Mm.
I haven't been to Europe, so I haven't seen like the public transits, but yeah, it makes sense with what you're saying because they're all like very little countries but next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Ireland, it doesn't have the best transport, but I've been living in Dublin for the last 10 years, and it's a city centre. But if you are living somewhere more rural, you do need a car, like where my parents live, even in this town, Letterkenny. Um, if I was to live in this town, I would need a car because, in the countryside, it's not like they have buses everywhere. Everyone has a car pretty much like places in the US. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations on your
Yeah,
driver's
yeah.
license.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, nerves and performance, it's all, whatever skill it is. I think it's the same. Mhm.
Ooh, um, these questions actually might be in order. It might not be in order, if that's okay. Like,
No problem. Yeah, like go for it. I like hearing interesting questions, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, how did you begin your passion for music and your music career? How did it start for you? And it can be as early as when you're a child.
Yeah. Well, I I mean, there's a time where I felt like it started for me as a child, and then a time where I kind of reconnected to it as a teenager. And I think the teenage years was really when just like I started gigging for the first time, and then ever since then have always gigged. But as a child, like I remember being about 4 years old and just in my own space and kind of singing to myself and having a like knowing, like an inner knowing I can sing, like I just knew it, even though, but I wasn't super confident around just singing in front of like my parents or something. I sort of didn't, I wasn't very like extroverted about it. I kept it to myself. But having said that, I think when I was 6, we used to watch this program called Stars in Their Eyes, and it would be people who would, it was like a sort of competition, and there'd be people who wanted to perform as a famous artist. So it was like, tonight, Matthew, I am going to be like Cher or or like Elton John and there was one that stuck out to me, and it was this woman who was Dusty Springfield, and she sang Son of a Preacher Man. Yeah. And I immediately, like, as a child, instinctually just was like, I like that. Like, her voice is so good. I love this song. And so I did, I guess I expressed that to my parents. I want to learn that song. And then I came home from school one day, and my dad had written out all the lyrics for me. And so I just learned that song, and I was 6. And yeah, I just sort of, it was the first song, I guess, maybe that I learnt off by heart of my own kind of initiative. And so that was pretty cool. But then, like, I guess life gets in the way, and it was soon after that that my parents moved house to like Donegal from London. So that was in London. And then as soon as we moved to Ireland, I felt like I had to sort of start all over again, finding my identity, and I wasn't, making new friends, and it was a bit, I think as a child, it is a bit of an upheaval when you move to a different place because you're like saying bye to all your friends and everything that's like kept you solid. So yeah, I was just sort of starting again, and I guess in Ireland it was a totally different culture to London, so it was getting used to that. And you just as a child do sing star and and um but yeah, it was really as a teenager then at age 13 I went to a singing camp, and the singing camp tutor was like, "Oh, do you want to come to my singing lessons?" And then going to singing lessons after that was really what built my real confidence to like really be like, yes, I'm a singer. And then after the singing lessons I had that singing teacher and then another singing teacher who's like the best. And it was really her that brought out my confidence. And then ever since then, I felt completely at ease just singing, So I would highly recommend a good teacher, when you want to start singing.
You said you started your singing lessons in your 30s?
No, they were when I was like 13. 13. Yeah, not 30. Yeah, 13 and then 14 was doing the singing lessons. And then when I was 14, I started a band with a couple of my cousins and their friends. And we'd play gigs at the local youth club. And so that was really when the gigging started. And then I decided, hang on, I'm more into blues and stuff. So I left the band that I was in with my cousins, and then my other cousin replaced me in that band as the singer. So it was like, oh yeah, I'll just go my own way now. And so then yeah, was playing gigs on my own and playing the songs I liked that were maybe less popular because it was kind of old blues stuff. And I used to love going to this bluegrass festival, which they had in Oma. Oma is about an hour drive away from Letterkenny, where I grew up. And it's an American folk park. So it's like this historical park where you see the journey of, if you want to just go there for the day as a tourist or whatever, it's like this park where they show the journey of the Irish people over to the US. And so it starts off with Irish cottages, and then you go through this like room, and it's like the ship. And then on the other side, there's like all these little American cottages and with, all the barns and the American style. And it's such a cool park. And they have a bluegrass festival there. So it's like it's so like I guess you know, apt, or, it goes really well with the music, the environment. And I was just obsessed because the first couple of years I went from age 14, there was this band there from North Carolina, and they had like the strongest accents, like country accents. And I just like, they were like about in their early 20s, these like they looked like Elvis, and they were like singing in harmonies. And I was absolutely obsessed and was just like, I love this music. It's so cool. So I think I've always since then had, even with the blues, I've always had this fascination with the US and the good music that's come out of there. Yeah, so that's kind of where it began, really, that festival as well.
Bluegrass kind of originates in the United States? I mean, I know there are a lot of bluegrass. Actually, have you heard of the Mammals? The Mammals?
No.
They're I think they would be considered bluegrass or folk at least, but they like banjo like
Banjo, fiddles, and yeah, cowboys. Yeah. Yeah, and then the next year I went, there was a band called the Water Tower Bucket Boys that I was absolutely obsessed with. And yeah, just great music. And it's so feel good. And it is a mixture of, I suppose, bluegrass originated from Irish traditional music that came over to the US. And I feel like when it got to the US, it kind of gave it a bit more of a, just a bit more kick and a bit more oomph. Or maybe it mixed with the blues. So that's why it's called bluegrass. And I love it. It's just got such a like almost like a lot of the songs are spiritual. So I suppose I had this very like spiritual vibe of it and very uplifting and like so yeah, I was obsessed with bluegrass a bit. But I didn't really write bluegrass songs. It was really much easier for me to write like a blues song initially. And then now I write quite poppy, commercially sounding songs. But I think all good music stems from like the blues, because that's the heart and soul and the raw expression, I think.
Mm. You
Mhm.
mentioned spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah, may I ask you yeah, what is spirituality in your life?
Well, I suppose like for me, all I can say is that it's a, if I think about that bluegrass festival and I used to feel like it was so heavenly, maybe it was just a point in my life where I felt very empowered to just be an individual and be into what I liked. And going to that, hearing that music was like, it was like feeling like heaven. It felt like heaven. So it was like a very uplifting feeling. And I don't know what that is like, but it's a powerful feeling. And I can understand how, music is a big part of getting in touch with that spiritual place, whatever it is for anyone. Um, I think it really is a sort of individual realization of joy, peace and joy, like what more could it be? Um, and like a sense of direction and enthusiasm, like genuine enthusiasm. Like to me, what more could you want from spirituality? Like that's kind of what it should be, the foundation of it should be, I suppose. Because all we have to go on in this life is our is our feelings and emotions. So that should be a sort of guidance. But also staying grounded and and making sure that it makes sense in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You reminded me of you reminded me that like the throat, like I didn't really actually think about this, consciously think about this
Mm.
until like getting ready for your interview. And I was like, oh yeah, wait, we are actually all designed to be an instrument. Like our throat is an instrument. And
Mm.
and I didn't put that together. I didn't put that together until I was like, yeah, like we are like a horn. We're like a horn or a wind instrument. And and then at the Weston A. Price Foundation, in Utah, I
Yes.
think it was Bumbiotics who there was someone working at Bumbiotics who was like, "Oh, come at any time you're available, and I'm going to um I'm going to like scan your voice." I don't, did you do that one?
No,
Oh, that would
no.
have been so cool if you did.
Yeah,
Damn.
what? I'm intrigued now. What was that?
Oh my gosh, she scanned my voice and then
Yeah.
so like she had me talk for like a couple minutes. She's like, talk about like just we just need to hear your voice. And so I had Monsters Inc. remembered as a little kid, so I was reciting Monsters Inc. And then she sent me, oh my gosh, I feel like you'd love it. I'll send you my results because I don't
Oh
care.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay.
she has the notes of like the consistent notes that I tend to speak. And then she says, "Oh, C sharp is this when D means you have this," and it's linked to emotions.
Wow.
It's crazy. Oh,
Whoa.
I was like, "Wait,
Pretty cool.
what?" Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. But
Yeah.
that was
Um,
fascinating. Oh,
yeah. Oh my gosh, I have to go again next year. Hopefully they have some of the same people back.
yeah, I wanted to ask you, I
Hmm.
also wanted to ask you, um, had yeah, how did you feel leaving Weston A. Price Foundation? Like things that you learned, community, health tips, like how maybe like how has I have so many questions and then when this goes, if you do remember, if this goes into the next question, like because you are very into the Weston A. Price like natural
Hmm.
health space, how has that potentially um integrated into your music career, and then the community and the environments around you, like what are people's general responses to you saying that you're like, I don't know if you're into like terrain model or all of this stuff, but
Right. Yeah, oh, yeah. I am interested, like I'd like to get even more into it. And I suppose I've integrated some of what I picked up at the Weston A. Price for sure. Yeah, is I can start answering the question. Yeah. It was great. Like I feel like there's so much more probably that I missed, because you can't catch everything. But I thought one thing that was like super cool to me that I had not heard of before was the guys who were doing the holographic blood and the way they could
Bigglesons, yeah.
look at people's blood and then see the blood would show them images of what was wrong in the person and like what they maybe had issues with. And that was amazing. Like I thought that was so cool. Um, because I do think our body kind of knows, more than anyone else what is going on in it. Um, but also for me, I loved the bentonite clay guy. I learned, I think the idea of bentonite clay is so interesting, and I brought some back, and so obviously one way I've been integrating it is I've been, using the bentonite clay a bit, trying out I had a couple of baths because my parents have a bath. I was there a couple of days ago and I tr had the baths, and it is um yeah, I do feel it working, and I've done the face masks, and you can sprinkle it on water and drink it and stuff, and it helps your digestion, and it's supposed to just help with like a broad range of getting your body back in balance or something. So yeah, that's super cool. Um, yeah, and I met Tom Cowan and I got him to sign my book because I just like people who are individual and are honest and just say what they think. And that's what drew me to Tom Cowan, was that he's so unconventional, but what he says makes total sense. So, and fair play, fair play to him. And and at the conference there was also a lot of people that had products that worked with like infrared energy or infrared stuff, like, and so obviously I know you tried out the relax saunas, and one day I had like a bit of a my tummy was feeling a bit weird after I drank this buffalo milk. But so then I sat in the infrared sauna for like, I think the guy that was turning the dial did it a bit longer than they usually would. And so I was in there while I started to actually really sweat. And it was probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And afterwards I felt completely fine, like no stomach ache, just completely fine again. So I highly recommend and love those relax saunas, but I think they're only available in the US, so I just have to come back to the US. And there was a really nice guy with this infrared light technology where you'd lay down and he'd put the lights by your head or like whatever, and you just had to, and I could feel it working, like moving stuff in my body. It was so cool. Um, yeah, and I met so many nice people and they I think they kind of the heads of the West of the conference noted how many more young people seemed to be there that year. So it was great because I did before I went, I kind of thought to myself, oh, it's probably going to be a lot of like older people into this, like older, like as in, I don't know, 60 plus or whatever. I'm getting old, but I suppose I'm younger than 60. I'm 31, but there were quite a nice group of people around my age and your age. And we had a nice sing song in the evening and it was beautiful. Yeah. So, and I love that. But I love, for me, like, because the music industry, and if you are a musician, there's a lot of things that come in that sort of pressure you to be in this quite like superficial, very industry world. But I don't think that you have to be necessarily part of that vibe if you are a musician. You can also do it in a very holistic way where you kind of organically grow your audience, and then you've got like your own little bubble that and maybe it's more sustainable as well rather than saying, oh yeah, I'll sign this record deal and then you get like you have to be a certain way, which is maybe not really you, in order to get like loads of fans really quickly and just like, super promotion. And I wouldn't have the energy for that. I realized that after I did have an experience where I had to I was asked to um do this Eurovision song for this Estonian songwriter, and so it got through to the national finals. I know the Eurovision isn't really in the US, but it's kind of big over here. But so it got through to the local the Irish national finals. So there was six finalists altogether, and I was one of them. And it was kind of cool, yeah. And I felt so chuffed. But I totally like respected and trusted, the RTE, which is the broadcasting, the Irish television broadcaster, where we had to perform on live TV. And because of the first time, I was like, you know, just taking everything in. I really trusted RT, but like everything, and I've spoken to people who've dealt with them before, and they don't like, the way it's run and stuff. But I'm not like slamming RT. I mean, they are great. They've done so many great things. They're the broadcaster, but like I went in there and they told me one thing and then the complete opposite thing happened and then the makeup artist like put something on my eye which before the only rehearsal I had, and she completely like I couldn't even open my eyes. I don't know what the hell she put on my eyes, and then she was like, "Oh, you should have told me you had sensitive eyes." And it was like totally unprofessional. Um I was like, look, I've worn eyeliner in the past and I've never not been able to open my eyes because it stings so bad before. Like, what the hell did you put on my eyes? And there was just so many things. It was just so it felt so disorganized. And these are the people I was relying on to like do my sound and do everything. And it just put so much anxiety on me. It was just such a stressful experience. And after I'd done the performance, I kind of felt this inner strength come up, like this is all just completely meaningless. Like, and when you're seeing this world of like, because nothing, when you see behind the scenes of like what goes on TV, you realize that it's nothing like what they project it as being. It's like you're not getting the real truth of anything. It's just all bullshit, you know. Everything in the media is bullshit. If you see behind the scenes in anything, you realize like it's just so like all they care about is they don't care about anyone apart from like what's gonna get the most hype and like how they can. So I almost felt like the fact that I didn't feel very comfortable was like beneficial to them because then they could play it so that they had very a bit of variety in their contestants, and you know some they could criticize and some they could, you know, and so I felt like I was the one that they were able to criticize because they'd put me through so much shit that it was impossible for me to give the performance that I wanted to give. But having said that, you know, a lot of people did love my performance, and you know, I bump into people on the street sometimes and they're like, "Oh, I loved your song and you know, you should have won and everything." So, you know, I do love that and I respect that, you know, I just all I did all I could do to serve what I tried as best as I could to serve the situation and the girl who had given me her song and so, and the fans, and that's all you can do is your best. And, you know, no matter what shit gets thrown at you, you know, you have to just keep going and learn. And I felt like I learned so much that it gave me so much more confidence in myself afterwards that really like I'm this isn't my path. And then after that, I I released so much music and so many music videos and built up such a like strong like amount of content and built up my YouTube channel a bit more. And so now I feel like I have like a solid group of YouTube fans at least, and I go on there and stuff. So that's nice. And I like being in control of my life. Like I think that's why so many musicians end up addicted to drugs and everything is because they're not in control of their own lives. And that's like a basic human need in order to thrive is and I definitely that's why I'm into health. I'm into the Weston A. Price Foundation because I believe that there are ways of living and you don't have to subscribe to a life that where you have little control over your own life. You know, there's always a way to carve your own path, especially as an artist. You know, you have to be creative.
Yes, brilliant ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so there's my thoughts on a lot of things.
Oh, sorry, just of the question, because I still have more questions, but yeah,
Yeah, go for it.
um, hmm, yeah, this kind of brings up the topic in regards to like sovereignty versus victimhood or victim mentality. I
Yeah.
do, I do wonder, like, how has that applied in your career, like, and how have you, maybe that was one of the moments where you really were like, this is why sovereignty is important, like to
Mm.
to um to not be in victimhood and to maybe accept the situation, the environment, and see what it shows you in regards to the music industry.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite a test for me because I realized that, you know, ultimately, no matter what happens in your life, you ultimately have to just take responsibility for it yourself. And that, in the long run, that's going to serve you the best. Um, you know, despite how thrown I felt by RTE, it would have been easy for me to just blame them or like blame, you know, other people for how I felt, you know, and I did feel humiliated. I did, you know, like it was so difficult. It was such, but then some people liked it. So I was like, well, you know, I have to just stand in my ground. And no matter what I do, if I feel ashamed, I just have to be like, no, I did a good job. Like I'm gonna accept myself. I did the best here. I'm gonna take responsibility for my life. And there were a lot of people afterwards, and the way they looked at me, I felt like they were just kind of like, oh, hard luck. Like they were looking at me as if I could see in their eyes that they felt like, well, at least I'm not her. Like, like when you see someone that's like been, put down and you have no empathy and you're just like, oh, hard luck, like, and there was one person that treated me like a human being afterwards and was respectful. And I respect that. Say if you humiliate yourself, it's so interesting seeing other people's responses, and you really get a sense of like the type of environment you're dealing with. But there was one person, and her name, she's actually a famous singer. She's called Ruth. Um, she's an Irish singer, and she's really good. But I will say, was the one person that I felt treated me with complete respect afterwards. And she said, sometimes your setback is your setup. And I just thought, what a nice thing to say. I like you. And so I did. I used the emotion that I felt around that whole experience, and I wrote the song Love Will Come Rushing. And I did the type of music video I wanted for it. And I released it as a single. And then I just kept on releasing more music, more singles, more music videos. And so, in a way, it was kind of like a setup because you can use anything to make a good song, especially if it like stirs your emotions, it's gonna create a good song. And I think as a songwriter, that's the gift that you have that sovereignty because you can always use the experience to create a cool song. And in a way, that creates our sovereignty. We don't have to be a victim, and it teaches you a lot.
Yeah, you can definitely Taylor Swift your way into the
Yeah.
like right like yeah, you give me this experience, I'll write a bad song about you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so and yeah, and with songwriting you can just get to the truth and the heart, and then you feel like you've balanced the scales out and you can move on with your life.
That's really cool you had that experience because of your closeness with spirituality and and the entire point of music.
hmm
The in,
I know. It should
it's
be.
just
I mean,
interesting.
I think a lot of people actually saw an old interview with Avril Lavigne recently, and she's one from my childhood. And even she was kind of like saying that it's a therapy, things happen to you and then the way that you process your emotions is to write a song. If you're a songwriter, it is a therapy and it really helps, especially if I'm someone that if I get uncomfortable emotions and I don't process them, I can feel them just sitting there and I need to like understand them in order to let them go and process them, and songwriting is the way that I've been able to do that. And I think it keeps me healthy to be able to do that. It's part of my health regime is singing. And when I go out, even when I'm just singing, I feel like it gives me a sense of how my voice sounds on a given day. It can be different. And it's almost like a feedback where it shows me, I'm like, oh, I didn't know my voice was kind of feeling like this today. And it's like a mirror of my health, where my health is at, is like my voice. But it always feels healing when I spend an hour just singing. It's definitely good for you, I think, to sing. Yeah.
Yeah, do you feel like or have you seen the science on like emotions sitting in your body?
Well, I definitely, if I did see the science on it, I think I would definitely agree with it, you know. Yeah.
Because yeah, you mentioned the Bigglesons. They do highlight that the emotions in
Yeah,
the
and
body.
that's
Yeah.
why I find that so fascinating. They're such cool guys. And even I think they're even musicians because we had a guitar afterwards and they kept asking to like play the guitar. I saw that. Yeah, and yeah, I just love to see more of their talks because it it was fascinating. Yeah.
Wait, so I'm gonna cut this part out because well,
Yeah.
unless you'd like to keep it, but okay, I'll lean into it. I'll go into it. You're
Sure.
like, what am I in for? Um, so so um oh, funny side note, like the Bigglesons, like they like apparently they attended like a heavy metal concert that same like weekend of the Weston A. Prize, and that's why
Oh,
Adam had a black eye.
what? Oh,
And I was like,
okay.
"Wait, you went to a metal concert? There's a metal concert here?" Like, and it's Utah's very, or the Salt Lake City is very Mormon. So like, wait, where is
Yeah.
there a metal concert? They saw this like band, like I guess like for like the 12th time or something, and they're in the mosh
Oh,
pit. Yeah. Okay, so that's a side note, but so I learned about the Bigglesons on a podcast called Terrain Theory, and Terrain Theory is hosted by two guys. Oh, they also interviewed Tom Cowan, Sam Bailey, Mark Bailey, Daniel Roitas, the Bigglesons. They interviewed all these pretty much all the people on and who talked at Weston A. Price, maybe except for there's just some of the more local ones. But so
yeah.
there's Ben and Mike. I could send you the Terrain Theory podcast, but Mike, one of the co-hosts of Terrain Theory, he hosts an annual music festival called Summer Hoot in New York,
Oh,
and they specialize in like bluegrass folk, and they
ooh,
love Weston A. Price. Like so
wow.
Rob Williams, I don't know if you met Rob Williams. He was hanging around like Sam Bailey, Mark Bailey. I met him for the second time there, and I took a breath class there. He was interviewed by the Terrain Theory guys. He attends there pretty much every year because he lives in Vermont. It's in New York, and I mean, it would be if you go, if Mike, because Mike's he's such he and his family, they're just genuinely wonderful people, family oriented. The I've been to the summer hoot a couple years ago. That's when
Mhm.
I met Rob for the first time. I met Ben and Mike. I met a bunch of other terrain model type people. Pretty much, I'm there. The whole group of people whom they interviewed on the podcast were there at the summer hoot. Music, the genres were across the board actually, but a lot
Mhm.
there are a lot of banjo players, guitar players. Um, there's like rock, hip hop, folk, like there's all of that, but
Oh,
the Mammals is the band that I told you, and
yeah.
they're pretty much the like the because it's Mike, they host it. So yeah, and I think his requirement to get into the summer hoot is that you need like a year of experience in like showing videos or like music videos, which is what you already have. So if I can get them like I can send a message out to Rob Williams. You can get connected to Rob Williams because he speaks to them like every week. He calls them, you know, asks them how they're doing. If you
Yeah.
wanted to perform there at New York, I would actually be willing to go. Like it would be next year around late August in New York.
Oh, that's perfect. That's kind of like the time of year I was thinking of going traveling somewhere anyway. So
Oh
that's
my
so
God, if you go,
cool. That's
I'll go.
yeah, I'm glad that I know about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll send yeah, do you mind if I give your contact to Rob Williams and just kind of let him know? Like,
I do not mind. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, because it's everything that I like. Western A Price kind of people, bluegrass music, everything. That's so cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you'll love it. Yeah, I feel like you'll love it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ah!
Nice.
It's exciting, yeah. Yeah, it's like a three day event. You can choose to sleep in a cabin or you can camp. Oh my gosh, the grass, the green grass, like and they have like natural things, of course, like the little booths similar to Weston A. Price Foundation.
Yes. Oh
Oh,
wow. That's like everything. No, that's so cool. I've wanted to know, like, was there something like that? And that sounds like it ticks all the boxes.